Record. Okay, here we go, you guys. Hi, Jen.
I'm not going to be here for long.
No, it's fine.
It's okay.
Today is doesn't need to be it's not a very interactive one anyway. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm just gonna get right into it. So, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back to this. Okay. So, I'm going to get right into the information today. I'm going to go through just a quick little summary again. Today is called the base camp. So as we continue the summit towards the ascent towards our freedom for ourselves, I want you to consider that we start with the code. It's about telling ourselves the truth about the facts of where we're at with our body, our fulfillment and being, our relationships, our balance, and within our business or our financial world. The second step is just to create an engine. It's creating daily habits and routines that help to nurture all four areas. Because remember, if one of those areas lights a fire, the other ones fall back down the mountain. Third thing is being really crystal clear on what fuels us. That's our values and our mission statement. When those are murky, gray, or unclear, it becomes more difficult for us to see the direction that we're headed. And instead, we have a tendency to just move rocks in our life. We have a tendency to move in directions that aren't necessarily aligned with ourselves. We will sedate. We will look for immediate gratification. And so I want you to consider that fuel, the third step, is one of the most important parts of the journey. The fourth part is what we went through yesterday. I call the Sherpa. There's many different tools that we can each use in this. The one that I introduced yesterday, I called the Patriot Missile Game. It literally just walks us through triggers as well as experiences of joy, and it basically harnesses it to keep us on point and in the direction of that's most important to us, most purposeful. Having tools like this have set, most of the most successful people, when I say successful, I mean internally successful. Successful people that I have ever studied have tools to keep themselves on purpose, on mission, and aligned with who they are themselves. Not as defined by me for you. I want you to define success for yourself. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we call the base camp. What I want you to consider is that, again, when we continue to use the metaphor of climbing up a mountain, okay, from the bottom, we can kind of see the top of that mountain. But as we climb up it, what I want you to consider is there are just ways to get to the top and ways to fail, and there's just a more successful way at getting to the top. And I want you to consider that the better your relationships are with yourself, with your partner, your spouse, your significant other, and our children, for those of us that have them, with our internal support team, if you will, the more likely you are to get to the top. Now, we continue to use the metaphor of the mountain. The reason why I term this the base camp is that if you've ever studied or if you ever follow mountaineers, particularly when they climb massive mountains like Mount Everest, for example, most of these mountains will have a base camp. Base camp is where we acclimatize. It's where we practice our skills and we acclimatize to the lower oxygen levels. We get all our skills honed for that push to the top, the push to the summit. And what I want you to remember is that these are habits that are necessary for survival. Now, in the game of life, I want you to remember that practicing and honing our skills with filling our own cup up, with filling our partner's cup back up, our collective cup, and particularly your children, are easy to lose sights on when we get busy in life. What you guys will all notice is we started with a big group when we started this process, and if you've noticed, at least half of the people have either started to fall off, haven't kept up, or have just said, I don't have time. The stories and the excuses come up, and what you'll find is they will have similar. We all have them. to start with, and we have these situations where we will say that same story everywhere in our life. We will say, I didn't have time for my body today. I didn't have time to date my wife today. I didn't have time for my children today. I didn't have, but yet we still have priorities somewhere. So I'm going to give you guys, for the sake of discussion, I'm going to give you some of the tips and tools of what I'm going to suggest. I'll also give you a little piece of homework. Okay, some of the tips and tools that work for me as well as many of the clients that I coach. Okay, so ultimately when we look at habits for self, here is what I encourage you to do, and this is part of your homework, by the way, is that within the next week, I want you to consider organizing a date with yourself, just with yourself, doing something that you love. I'll give you my suggestion, or not my suggestion. What it is that I do is I have a group of dads that get together, dads and other guys. We get together on Thursday night, and we call it DFC, Dad's Fight Club. And so there's different levels and skills and abilities as far as our ability to wrestle and box and kickbox, etc. But we get together and we spar, and it's hilarious and fun, and it's one of the most fun parts of my week. Other suggestions are going and honing a skill. If you're an athlete, going and doing something for yourself, or playing a sport or something like that really that you really love, right? So that's something I recommend that you set up for yourself within the next week, is where can you set yourself up for a date for yourself. I mean, you can include other family members, but the point is to do something that you love. We want to fill the cup back up, because if we do things that are constantly depleting our energy, we have a difficult time to continue to provide in a direction that we want to. The second challenge for today is to set up a date. I'm assuming for those of you that have a partner, a spouse, a significant other, I want you to set up a date, if you don't have one already, within the next week for the two of you. And I want you to organize it. I want you, if you have kids, I want you to organize a sitter, somebody that comes and looks after the kids. I want you to organize, if you're going to go and eat somewhere, book it, organize it, strategize it, make it something fun. Imagine you're dating your partner for the first time. Again, I want you to imagine that. And I want you to realize that your investment in your partner, your spouse, your significant other, in a manner such as this, has so many more benefits than we're willing to see. But I can't tell you how many people right now get to, even if you have a date night that's on a regular basis, this used to, literally this is the story that I used to tell, and I can't tell you how many times people will say the same story to me. I go on a date night, it's Friday, I look at my wife and I say, "Hun, where do you want to eat?" She looks at me and says, "I don't know, where do you want to meet?" My brain and her brain go spinning because we're already exhausted by the week. We finally navigate to a place that we want to eat. We get there, I'm doing this, and I go, "Hun, just give me a sec. Just give me just one more sec. Just give me a sec." She's doing the same thing. Meanwhile, I'm having a beer or a glass of wine, at which point I can't wait to get home and do even more of that to sedate my brain from an extraordinary long week. I can't tell you how many people tell me that exact same story. I want you to consider that within the next 7 days, I want you to organize a date that you design. I've done all kinds of extraordinary things, and it does not mean that you have to get into a plane and fly across the country and organize a very expensive date. I've done things like going to a pool hall or going bowling, going to a movie. We've gone to escape rooms. We've done a myriad of different things, but I want you to be creative and organize it. Pay for it, organize it, strategize it, so that the day that it occurs, it is already set up and you just have to show up. Now, what you have to do in order to make this really work is your partner needs to know that this is a date that you're organizing and you've got a bit of a surprise. They need to be willing participants at the same time, but I want to challenge you to this. The third challenge of the base camp is to organize a date with either, if you've got several children, all of them at once, or with each of them one at a time. One of my favorites is going and doing pottery with my daughter. I go swimming with the kids. And oftentimes on Sundays, I'll end up at the pool for 3 or 4 hours, just spending time with my kids. Kingston likes to go and play stick and puck now, so we often go out and skate. Ava likes to join in with that as well. The reality of it is it's just about having that consistent time with your children. And I can't tell you, I literally had stories as well of I'm too busy, I'm exhausted. And now that I make it, it's in my schedule. Now I actually create, once every quarter, I create something really cool for them. So there's a surprise that comes for them every quarter, and they start looking forward to, and by the way, mom is not allowed to come on the kids' surprise every quarter. So we've done things like skiing, and we've gone to the ballet. Ava and I have gone. We've gone to Kingston and I went to a hockey game last quarter. It happened to be his birthday as well. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it's just that time, and doing it in a way and in a manner that is aligned with them is even more powerful. Oh, just lost my screen. There we go. I hope that this makes sense. Base camp for me is a place where you practice on a weekly basis your skills in relationships. Relationships with self, your partner, your children if applicable, and if there's anyone else that you're trying to grow a relationship with, this is also applicable. Okay, so your assignment, you've got it. Organize a date for self, a date with your partner, and a date with your children all within the next week. This becomes even more effective when you can organize these and strategize these in such a way that this occurs on a weekly basis. When you coach within the men and the women of iron, this is what we do, is we help you with strategizing how you can grow your relationships with all three. Now, I'm going to move on for a second. I want to talk a little bit about tomorrow. Tomorrow is a huge topic, once again, and I am going to put it into the group that I would like as many people to participate in tomorrow's discussion. It's at 8 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow for those of you guys out on the East Coast and in the Chicago area, or in the even on the down California coast. It's going to be in the morning. 8 a.m. is tomorrow's webinar, and we're going to talk about what we call the drift. Again, the metaphor of climbing up the mountain. I can't tell you how many people get so close to the top of the mountain and turn back because the weather, the conditions, the fear, whatever it is. And what I want you to remember is we're going to talk more about what the drift is, but we're going to talk about why most people don't change or get the results that they want. You're already noticing this within the group. There's a few of you that are doing amazing jobs, but like you've sensed, it's like drinking through a fire hose. And some people fallen off already. We're also going to talk about why and how we get to the top of the mountain in different ways. Ultimately, and I'm going to pre-frame this just a little bit, okay? Some of us like to do it very intimately. So some of us like to do it on our own. Some of us like to do it one-on-one with a coach or a mentor. Some of us like to do it in a group. So tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about, for those of you that want to participate a little bit further and actually get somewhere with this, I'll give you guys a couple of options with how you can participate with me further in this. No, you do not have to come to a men or women of iron event. That is only for those of you that are interested in the full experience. I've already had 2 people, just while going through this process, ask if their husbands can attend our Men of Iron process that's going on next weekend here in Victoria, British Columbia. The answer, unfortunately, is no. We are closed. We're a full experience this time. Our next one is going to be in April in Denver, Colorado. So for anybody that wants to experience the full experience, the full immersion of this content, You can talk to me a little. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. There is also a Women of Iron event in Texas, and I believe that that is at the end of this month. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. For those of you that don't want to travel, don't want to quite take it to that degree, I'll explain to you what one-on-one coaching or what group coaching is. I want you to consider, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, it happens to be a little bit more effective as a group because then you get a team. It's an amazing experience. I'll explain to you how you guys can participate in that. For today, you have your assignment. It is to create a date for yourself within the next 7 days, to create a date with your partner within the next 7 days, and to create a date with your children, either one-on-one or as a group, just you, no other assistance, just you and your children. That is my challenge for you today, and that's all I've got. Kyla, I know you're at dinner. Jen, I know that you're in and out. Ed, thank you for participating today, and everybody else that's listening to this. If you have any questions, I want to make sure that you post them into the group. Jen, I'll get to you in just a moment. If you have any other questions about either the assignment or any of the other processes, tomorrow and Sunday are going to be our last 2 days of webinar. We're going to close this and all of the information on Wednesday of next week. So make sure you get your questions in, make sure you get your assignments done and post them in the group. And I'm here anytime on the Facebook group. Please let me know if you got questions. Jen, question.
No question. Just saying good night.
Okay.
Yeah.
And good night to the kitty cat. That's...
No. Say good night.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Good night, everybody. I appreciate you all, and let me know how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye.